the Chase Thomas Podcast. For people who have nothing but time to kill.
I think to beat Alabama, you're going to have to shoot the ball well. Chaz's going to have to shoot well. Zakai's going to have to shoot well like he did in the second half. The Bandy game. Like, I just don't think there's a way around it. I think there's going to be a math problem if Tennessee does not play Alabama the way they played Mizzou. But I think for A&M, the path is what you did at Auburn a month ago, right? Like, that's really what you want to do, is you're just like, can we... Because they foul, and they go to, like, both teams are going to draw fouls, is my gut. And if you can just live in the free throw line, live in the bonus, that's how you drag A&M to just the absolute mud. Because I think that's what you're going to have to do. With the amount of size that they have and the way A&M plays, I think your hope is you're just going to get killed in the glass if you play that, if you let them dominate that way. The way around that is you got to just muck this up as much as humanly possible and keep this as low scoring as humanly possible. And I think that's possible. I just said possible way too many times in that sentence, but I think that is possible, Ethan.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I had two things I wanted to talk about as far as very closely related to Tennessee's success heading into this game. And what you said perfectly encapsulates one of them. This has to be a disgusting basketball game, especially considering, like I said earlier, you got to go to College Station to do it.
Not disgusting like what we saw Saturday, by the way, in the first half against Vandy. Not that kind of disgusting. Good disgusting. There's two very different Tennessees. Tennessee's first half against Vanderbilt was bad disgusting. It's a there's two different types, so we have to clarify.
Yeah, and I don't think that necessarily means just play the hack-a-shack game either, because a thing that, you want a fine line between that, because at the same time, Tennessee's front court depth isn't fantastic right now, and Texas A&M, especially with Pharrell Payne, Henry Coleman, the guys down low, they're the guys that draw a lot of those fouls. They work from the inside out. That's Texas A&M's bread and butter. They're going to get the rebound. They're going to limit your possessions, and they're going to beat you up. And Tennessee can't just like fall into the trap of getting Igor and Felix with 2 or 3 fouls both in the first 20 minutes of the game, and then just having to slog out there while they dominate in the paint. The second part I was going to go over in conjunction with that, because I still think this has to be a disgusting game. A way you can kind of get away from that is make your threes, because A&M is going to let you have the threes. They're going to let you shoot, because like I said, they prioritize inside. They don't want you to get to the hoop. They are going to force you baseline. They're going to force everything is going to be difficult trying to make you score inside. So they're just going to let you have the threes. And if you can hit them, that's how you beat them. Every team that's beaten, not every team, I think Oregon didn't play too well from 3 against Texas A&M. Every other team that beats them, they shoot 33% or more. Kentucky, I think Mississippi State shot like 40% in this last game. You got to hit the outside 3, or else we'll have a 53 to 51 game like that Auburn one, and it'll just be a coin flip, for lack of a better word, because A&M, something else that's kind of interesting is they haven't played a defense really even close to Tennessee's this season. They still have yet to play Florida. They've yet to play Auburn. I think Mississippi's might be the best defense they've played, and that's a different level compared to what Tennessee's been doing this season. So
Tennessee,
I think that in general might frazzle them a little bit, but they have the advantage because they're at home. They have the crowd at their back, and they might not be as deterred by that. So there's definitely a lot of matchups, I guess, going into this one that it's going to be a complex game. I don't think necessarily one thing's going to do it, but you got to have a lot of things go right.
Do you agree, Ryan?
Yeah, and I think that if there's a game where you want to get it into the mud and you want to get that good type of disgusting, A&M's not a bad opponent to do it to. I mean, they're a weird team. They're obviously one of the best teams in the country. They're on track to be a 2 or a 3 seed, but they're worse than the SEC in field goal and 3-point percentage. And it's just kind of a weird thing that they've been able to win so many games while shooting the ball so poorly. And I think Tennessee fans are listening and saying, yeah, that sounds familiar. Tennessee's not necessarily at the top of the SEC in field goal or 3-point percentage, and they found ways to win. But you look at guys like Wade Taylor and Phelps, and those are the 2 leading scorers, and neither of them are efficient either. I think both of them are in the 30% somethings from the field. So if you want to beat Texas A&M and you want to do it by playing like you did at Auburn, I think there is a path there, but Tennessee was the game at Auburn if they get just 1 more step, 2 more steps on offense. And that's where Ethan was alluding to. You're going to have to hit your threes. You're going to have Chaz Lanier when he does get some open looks, he's going to have to knock them down. You're going to need not a Zakai game like we saw against Vanderbilt in the second half, but a more efficient Zakai game than we've also seen in the past, where he comes out and he shoots 1 for 8 from 3. And sometimes that's also part of, maybe you're not getting anything from Igor or Chaz, and Zakai feels like he needs to take over. But that's just to say the defense is going to have to show up like usual, but they are going to have to hit some shots, and someone's going to have to step up, whether that's Jordan Gainey, Zakai, Igor. You can get it from multiple guys, but someone's going to have to do it.
Or D-Stone just owns the state of Texas. Like that's the best case scenario. D-Stone's just, his 2 iconic games are in Austin and in College Station. Like it's the D-Stone Texas tour. Like who says no?
D-Stone has one more All-Star game in him, and he's going to use it against Texas A&M.
That would be fantastic. I'm here for it.
It would make a lot of sense.
Well, it would make a lot of sense because it doesn't make any sense. Because D-Stone,
exactly.
It's been rough of late. So that he just comes out of nowhere and just guns blazing here in College Station would be wild. He's going to get some looks, and he's okay with firing. Like that's the thing, is D-Stone's going to fire. So, I mean, Tennessee does not have a lot of guys who, I mean, that was the most frustrating thing about the Zakai thing in the first half on Saturday, is that Tennessee does not have the luxury of Zakai not shooting. And like we can debate like what kind of shooter Zakai ultimately is. Like I've compared him a lot to Trey, not to make everything about the Hawks in this podcast, but you know how much of a ball watcher folks are when they talk about Trey Young, where it's like, oh, great shooter. It's like, nope, not a great shooter. I've watched a lot of Trey Young threes in my life. Trey Young's not a great shooter. Trey is an unbelievable passer. He has an unbelievable floater. He is unbelievable at drawing contact and knowing, like, there's a lot of things that Trey Young is very, very good at. But he is not an elite shooter. He does not have Steph Curry touch. He's never been an above average 3-point shooter with high volume. That's okay, because he's really good at other stuff. That's how I am with Zakai, where it's like, you still have to get those shots up. Like, he's going to have nights where he goes 5 for 5 from 3, because I think he is going to be kind of up and down with his threes. And I don't even think he takes a lot of bad threes. Like, I think his shot diet's pretty okay for me, because it's usually either right at the rim or it's a 3. And usually they're pretty open. Like, Zakai does a good job of getting good looks for Tennessee from deep for the most part, but he just can't. That was the weird part about Saturday, and why he came out and they were talking about like what Barnes said to you and stuff, because it's like it was so strange. It's like you have guys where Felix Akpara is not going to be putting up shots from deep. Cade Phillips obviously not. Boswell's not a factor right now. Gainey's not shooting well from 3. He's doing everything else well, but the Gainey 3-point stuff is just very strange in terms of his variance from deep, because he's missing some good looks, but he's been really good at the elbow. He's doing everything else well, which helps Tennessee a lot, but for whatever reason, the threes aren't falling. Meshack, obviously, no one's going near him on threes for the most part, and it's just like it's a math game. Like, part of it, I harp on this a lot, but modern basketball is just that, like, it's like, you have to shoot threes. There's just no way around it. Like, this team doesn't have enough shooting, and if teams like Vanderbilt are shooting really well from deep, even if you're playing pretty good defense, you have to start shooting. Like, I know you want to be a pass first guy, but those shots have to go up. And that might be another case on Saturday, where if Wade Taylor starts off hot, or A&M get built to lead because Tennessee has a slow start, it's like, Zakai, you can't let this get it out of control. So you're going to have to start being more aggressive shooting the basketball. It's just part of where Tennessee's at in terms of their depth and just what they need, right? I think that's fair.
Is that... I actually didn't hear what it was that Barnes told Zakai. Do you know what exactly he said to him? Because I had heard about that, but I don't remember what he said to him.
Well, like, Zakai joked that he couldn't say, like, on the broadcast. Remember, like, Zakai, like, came out and was like, I can't. Like, it was uncharacteristic, I think, of... I mean, it was I don't think it was happy. I don't think Barnes was happy about the first half from Zakai. And obviously, because it was different. It was something that we did not see, and Zakai was a completely different player in the second half, and the main reason Tennessee came back and beat Vanderbilt in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it'd be perfect for Tennessee to say, look, we want Zakai to be like that all the time. But, yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That's just kind of his nature. Zakai is always going to be good as a floor general. He is sometimes going to be elite from range, and sometimes he's going to kind of throw a bit of a dud, but that's fine. You just kind of have to roll with that. And what you said, Chase, I think is really interesting, especially with the Gainey weirdness from 3. It's funny you bring that up, because I was thinking that as well. It's so, like, if you looked at Jordan Gainey's 3-point numbers versus Igor's, it would blow your mind. It would absolutely blow your mind. at the start of the season, Jordan is shooting well, Igor's not shooting well, and then they just completely flipped. I mean, Igor's shooting out of his mind right now, and Jordan can't find water if he fell off a boat.
But he can from the elbow. Like, it's just it's just threes.
Exactly. I just like you said, that's not to say that Gainey's not doing anything. I think Tennessee is at their very best when Jordan Gainey is playing to his potential, and that kind of piggybacks off what you're saying with Zakai. Like, everyone has their own little roles here. And Zakai's is kind of, in a certain sense, to be a bit of a wild card, because when he's playing very, very well, Tennessee's tough to beat. When he's playing really, really bad, Tennessee is going to lose. They're going to. He played terrible against Florida, and that was Tennessee's worst game of the year. Obviously, the next time around against Florida kind of contradicts that. But obviously, when Zakai's
Gainey steps up, man. When Zakai's not around, Jordan Gainey is like, this is my Super Bowl. Like, Jordan Gainey is Tom Brady when Zakai's out. He's just like, this is my moment, man.
That's true to an extent. I think when it is pre-planned and when Barnes goes into it, not necessarily saying, look, Zakai's not here, but when he goes into it, especially as of late, I feel like Barnes has been like, look, you showed me something in that Florida game. We know you can do it. I think you and Brian Shumpert talked about this a little bit ago. Like, give him the ball more, let him run the show more. And it's not like Tennessee's just going to fall apart without Zakai, but I also do feel like Gainey has a little bit of that nature too. Look, if he's struggling, he's not going to be able to pick it up in the middle of the game. He seems like a guy that's kind of fueled on confidence. And kind of wrap my point up, because I've been going on for a while now, when Tennessee is playing within their roles like that, but there's one little guy like Zakai shooting crazy from three, or Gainey all of a sudden just taking over and dropping 23 points like he did against Illinois. That's when Tennessee's at their best, when they're kind of moving outside of their usual flow. And, recently they've been showing different ways of doing that. Igor's all of a sudden catching fire from three, and that was a massive help in the comeback against Vanderbilt. That was massive in Tennessee's win over Missouri, and I think it's going to be big moving forward too.
Igor's never missed a top of the key three. It's never happened. It's just never happened. And it's always when I think Igor has my favorite mix of any Tennessee player in a long time, because when Igor, it's net, but it's crisp. It's a great sound. As a swish connoisseur, let me say, Igor and his threes are fantastic. The sound that they make are one of one. Ryan, Sylvia, what do you think is the most important matchup to watch in this game for Tennessee against A&M?
They're going to have to keep Anderson Garcia off the glass. I think he grabbed 17 last year in College Station, so it's easier said than done with the guy like him. He's back. He's leading the team in rebounding again. You have some different personnel there, though, this time. You have some different guys in the paint. We'll see what Tennessee can do with it. It feels like a game that you'll need Igor to step up. Like, Felix isn't the strongest rebounder in the world for his size, but Igor makes up for it in most games. So it feels like a game that you'll need Igor to get in there, get some rebounds. You'll need the minutes where Jemai Meshak's on the floor. Maybe you'll need him to grab a few. But to me, if you're looking at a specific matchup, just because of the nature that the two top scorers for Texas A&M have been scoring at, which is pretty inefficient, I look more towards the glass. You just can't get beat on the glass like you were last year, and then that probably sets you up to have one of those situations where, all right, everyone kind of sit in your roles. Is it going to be like, whose game is it going to be? Kind of what you guys were talking about. Like, it feels like almost any game you go into this season with Tennessee, a different player steps up and has a big game, and it's almost impossible to guess which one's going to be. Is it going to be Zakai? Is it going to be Igor going for 20 points? Is Darlinstone going to have his Texas game again? Like, it could really be like 5-6 different players on any given night. So you get your rebounds, you play your defense, and then I think you just kind of hope that you get some good offense from a few guys and see what happens.
What about you, Ethan?
Yeah, I think he hit the nail on the head. I've used that twice now, in case you're wondering.
Yeah, I said possibly or probably.
It's a good one. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my go-tos. But yeah, I think he's exactly right. I think that keeping Garcia, because he's just a freak of nature. He's one of those guys. I kind of equate him a little bit to Cam Matthews with Mississippi State. I feel like they're kind of similar players, but obviously Garcia is a little more. He's one of the best rebounders in the country, definitely one of the best in the SEC, and he's just kind of the it factor. I feel like for them, like he's a hustle guy for them. He's their early season Zakai for us. He's the guy that'll go out there and just kind of do the little things right. On top of that, I'll add to it a little bit. My matchup is just Tennessee's front court versus A&M's front court. I'll just make it a little more simplified. I've talked a little bit about Payne already. Henry Coleman's not having his best season, but he's still a presence down there. He still has the experience, obviously, that he's had with. He helped. I don't remember exactly what he did last time, but I know he had a good game last time Tennessee beat or Texas A&M beat Tennessee, and he's been on 2 teams that have beaten Tennessee. He's familiar with a Rick Barnes program. He's familiar with how Tennessee's going to want to go into this one. And I'd agree with what Ryan said about Igor. This feels like a game that he needs to, not necessarily from a scoring perspective, but just from a blocks and steals and rebounds, especially, and keeping away from fouling, kind of like alluding to what I said earlier. Tennessee will lose this game if Felix and Igor have 2 fouls both in the first 20 minutes. I am positive of it, because while, we said that a disgusting game favors Tennessee, which I truly believe it does, you can't go too far over, because if you're in foul trouble against this team, you're going to lose, because they are, for the most part, really, really, really good at drawing fouls. And not to mention, like I've said twice now, I feel like on this show, they're going to have the crowd at their back as well. So it's just going to be every little mistake. It's just going to be compounded on top of each other. And, if Tennessee has another really, really bad start and A&M doesn't, if A&M's up 10 points and we got the Vols in foul trouble and they're doing kind of whatever they want to down low. And it's, I just don't see a path to victory for this Tennessee team. I don't see a way that they can just kind of crawl back from this one like they did Vanderbilt, I guess.
Well, I think what's helpful, I don't know if you guys agree, but I do think this was a good time for Tennessee to get a week off. Like, I think they're banged up with Igor and Cade and other guys. Like,
Nicely done, nephew.
This week off.
The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.